Okay, here we are. Thank you. You can have the next slide, please. Thanks a lot for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here and to be together with you. And I really appreciate this wonderful initiative. And it's great to be a part of this initiative, uh, the cultural masters. I think it's a great thing. Um, I would like to highlight some. If I can have the next slide, please. Yeah, I will talk about some of the core principles in the 2003 convention in an international context. So next slide, please. Um, yeah, it's a principle that I would like to rub in from the start in my presentation. It's that ICH has no borders. It's always in people. It's in you and me as humans. We are carrying the ICH with us. It could be like oral tradition or traditional food. It could be traditional crafts. It's something that we bring with us as human. It's what we call ICH is in many ways what is called embodied knowledge. It's something that we have with us, bring with us as humans. And as the anthropologist says, we have boots, we don't have roots. We are not trees or plants, and we are not like buildings or monuments, which is situated one particular place. It's something we are humans, and we are carrying our the living traditions with us, and this is really important because it has always been like this. So we have shared over the borders, even if they are there. We have been traveling around, and we have been meeting other people, and this is why we will find uh, tradition and traces of the same traditions all over the world, which is a wonderful thing. And this is how ICH actually connects us as humans. Um, and this is in no back, please. I'm not finished. I haven't really finished. Yes, this is in contradiction to the 72 convention, the World Heritage Convention, which is uh, there is always a site, there is always a place, there is always a country, because a church or a monument, it's or a castle, it's always that is inscribed on this list is always some particular place. But so this means that the safeguarding uh, um, measures are different for the 72 convention and for the 2003 convention, because it's a you cannot ask, like, if you have an object, you can put it in the freezer or you can put it in a magazine or in a basement. But for safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage, which is in people, it's different safeguarding measures, because you cannot put the bear of the tradition in a freezer, in the fridge. It won't help you for safeguarding it. You need some other kind of safeguarding measures. So next slide, please. Yeah, this is. I think this. If you look at this wonderful pictures here on the top, you have you see this rose, traditional rose. In the first picture is from a bag made by indigenous people in Paraguay, and you can see this particular rose. The same rose you will find. This is on the bottom there. It's my own gloves, the one I use daily. It's traditional Norwegian gloves, and it's the same. It's the same rose. It's exactly the same. And then you go to the next one, to the right, which is the from this Palestinian embroidery, and it's still exactly the same roast, the same pattern, which you will find all over the world. I've seen it in Laos, I've seen it other also in other countries all over the world, and it's a very good example of how intangible cultural heritage is not something that we have been discovering under a rock. in the woods. It's something that we have been sharing, and it has been developed, and it's a sort of is a result of dialogue between people, because we have roots, we don't have roots. We have been traveling around, and we have been sharing our living traditions. So ICH connect people through crafts, through rituals, symbols, food, and music. And it creates dialogue, and it connects generation. And this is a wonderful point, how like when my daughter learned how to knit, the traditional knitting, the traditional craft, she was working together with my mother, and together granddaughter and grandmother were working together, and this was passed on from one generation to the next, to a new generation. And it's not only she didn't only pass on the knitting, but it was also every Thursday when they met to do this knitting thing. She also, of course, learned a lot of other things that was passed on, because it's more complex than just knitting. It's you have to see ICH in a little broader scope, and it's also example of how ICH stimulates creativity. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, this is I think this is also a very crucial point. It's in crisis, and for example, now it's unfortunately it's a challenge in the world with armed conflicts. And there's a lot of people who are suffering. There is a lot of refugees who cannot stay in their own country, but they have to go somewhere else. And these examples, these pictures are from Ukraine. And it's examples of how they bring their living traditions with them. When the refugees, we have a lot of Ukrainian refugees after the Russian invasion, uh, that people who had to leave, that had to leave Ukraine, and we have a lot of them in Norway now, for example, and in other European countries, and they eat their borscht, they paint the eggs, and they do their embroidery tradition. And this is something that, I mean, you can take away from people. You can take their house, you can take their farm, you can take their car and their boat, but you cannot take away your intangible cultural heritage, because it's always in us as humans. So this is in a difficult situation. We see that the ICH is more important than ever. And I had this meeting with refugees from Ukraine, and people. We also have an organization in Ukraine who works with ICH, and they told me that now the intangible cultural heritage activities or practices are more popular than ever. When the soldiers come back from the front, when they have been fighting, the first thing they do is that they learn how to, they are going to a course how to paint eggs in a traditional way. They have been like 2 months by the front fighting, and they come back and they play they do the eggs, and so it shows how and they paint the eggs. This is the same in Palestine. I was assisting Palestine with writing some of their files for inscription, and the Palestinian embroidery is very interesting, because it's something that they they cannot live in their own country, because there has been an occupation and they had to escape, but they live like in camps, for example, in Ramallah or in Jordan, other places where they can take their practice with you and with them, and it's more important than ever. So I think the ICH in difficult situations is really important for people, because it's you can sort of carry with your identity. There is dialogue. And there's also the next slide with I will show you some examples with the peace building. Yeah, I also think very strongly that because of the because of like ICH is also peace building, but because it's always there's so much dialogue in the practices, and there are so many great examples how international cooperation and exchange of cultural practices in the field of ICH can be peace building, and because it creates a mutual understanding and respect. So, and this is also some of the basic values, as Alisher Ikramov mentioned in his introduction, that UNESCO is like some of the core values of UNESCO, with how it supports diversity, it supports respect, and it supports dialogue. So ICH helps us to connect us across the borders. And as you can see from the picture on the right, with these two kids doing the wrestling, the traditional Korean wrestling, which I think it's a wonderful example. And some of you might remember when there was an inscription of the, and please excuse my very lousy Korean pronunciation of the Serum wrestling tradition, and it was a joint nomination from the both of the Korean states, which was a wonderful step where states which traditionally had some challenges with their communication could actually come together in with a nomination, a multinational file, where they could come together because they shared an element of ICH, which was very important in both of this for both of the states. So I think this is a wonderful example. It's a very good example of how ICH can be a tool for dialogue and eventually for peace building. So with these words, I would like to thank you for your attention. And if you have some question, I will be happy to answer.